From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired!
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Happy Friday and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. Over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the United States and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, let's take a look at the latest headlines. Israel recovers the bodies of 5 hostages from tunnels in southern Gaza. The military says it has intelligence that over 100 hostages are being kept in tunnels, out of which at least 40 may be dead. A Russian drone explodes near a Romanian village on the border of Ukraine. NATO rules it as a crash caused by technical error and dismisses the possibility of an intentional attack by Moscow. France's high-speed railway suffers multiple sabotage attacks, including arson disrupting travel ahead of the Olympic Games opening ceremonies. More than 800,000 commuters affected by the disruption. California Governor Gavin Newsom orders the immediate removal of homeless encampments following a Supreme Court order. Newsom promises to give housing to all 180,000 homeless people in the state. And South Africa makes history by appointing its first female Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Judge Mandisa Maya will take over the country's top court starting in September. We begin in the United States. President Joe Biden hosted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House for a bilateral meeting. During the interaction, President Biden urged Netanyahu to accept the ceasefire deal and bring back the hostages that are still being held by Hamas. President Biden also reiterated his support for Israel's right to defend itself against any attacks. Vice President Kamala Harris also held a one-on-one with the Prime Minister, where she urged the Israeli leader to bring a halt to civilian casualties in Gaza. And taking a more stern approach than President Biden, Kamala Harris said she would not remain silent on the killing of Palestinian civilians.
I also expressed with the Prime Minister my serious concern about the scale of human suffering in Gaza, including the death of far too many innocent civilians. And I made clear my serious concern about the dire humanitarian situation there, with over 2 million people facing high levels of food insecurity, and 500,000 people facing catastrophic levels of acute food insecurity. We cannot look away in the face of these tragedies. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent.
The vice president also urged Prime Minister Netanyahu to end the war by immediately accepting the ceasefire deal that was proposed by President Biden.
Thanks to the leadership of our President Joe Biden, there is a deal on the table for a ceasefire and a hostage deal. The first phase of the deal would bring about a full ceasefire, including a withdrawal of the Israeli military from population centers in Gaza. In the second phase, the Israeli military would withdraw from Gaza entirely, and it would lead to a permanent end to the hostilities. It is time for this war to end.
Now, Harris, who is also the Democratic Party's presumptive presidential nominee, has backed a two-state solution with the creation of a Palestinian state. However, she added that Israel's right to self-defense would remain America's top priority.
And I know right now it is hard to conceive of that prospect, but a two-state solution is the only path that ensures Israel remains a secure, Jewish, and democratic state, and one that ensures Palestinians can finally realize the freedom, security, and prosperity that they rightly deserve. I have had an unwavering commitment to the existence of the State of Israel, to its security, and to the people of Israel. I've said it many times, but it bears repeating. Israel has a right to defend itself.
Now, despite the stern talks and intense discussions, the Biden-Harris administration continues to send weapons worth billions of dollars to Israel and have only withheld one shipment of heavy-grade bombs. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu has not commented on the remarks made by Vice President Harris about the two-state solution. He will now meet former President and Republican Party presidential nominee Donald Trump at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. Donald Trump has already commented on Netanyahu's White House visit and called Kamala Harris, quote, against Jewish people, unquote. Still, it remains to be seen whether Netanyahu's visit to the United States will do more harm than good, as calls for him to resign echo throughout Israel and Washington. And staying in the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris says she's ready to debate former President Donald Trump, but the Republican presidential nominee is now backpedaling. Her remarks came after the Trump campaign said it would not commit to any future debates until Harris is formally chosen as the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party.
Many of you have been asking me about the debate, and I'll tell you, I'm ready to debate Donald Trump. I have agreed to the previously agreed upon September 10th debate. He agreed to that previously. Now it appears he's backpedaling, but I'm ready. And I think the voters deserve to see the split screen that exists in this race on a debate stage. And so I'm ready. Let's go.
The next debate between the presidential candidates is scheduled to be hosted by ABC News on September 10th. The first debate was hosted by CNN on June 27th, during which President Joe Biden delivered a disastrous performance. Now, earlier this week, the former president said he wanted to debate Vice President Kamala Harris and would be willing to do so multiple times. Donald Trump added that he had agreed to a debate with Joe Biden, but a face-off with Harris would be no different. The Republican also pushed for a more conservative Fox News to host the debate, calling ABC News, quote, a joke, end quote. However, Kamala Harris has not confirmed whether she would be open to a debate hosted by Fox News. Meanwhile, former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama have endorsed Kamala Harris for president. In a video released on Friday, the couple told Harris on the phone that they were ready to do everything to get her into the Oval Office. The vice president thanked the Obamas for their support and expressed gratitude for their decades-long friendship.
I can't have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh my goodness. Michelle, Barack, this means so much to me. I am looking forward to doing this with the two of you, Doug and I both, and getting out there, being on the road. But most of all, I just want to tell you the words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express. So thank you both. It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this too, aren't we?
Barack and Michelle Obama also issued a joint statement saying Harris has the vision, the character, and the strength to win the November 5th election. This week, Kamala Harris has earned enough delegate support to become the Democratic presidential nominee. Democratic delegates are expected to vote virtually to confirm Kamala Harris as the party's candidate on August 7th, ahead of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago beginning August 19th. And reports say Harris is also making plans to name a running mate that same day. And now from one election to another, as Venezuela approaches its critical presidential election on July 28th, the political atmosphere remains electric but tense. Incumbent President Nicolas Maduro is aiming for a third term, and he closed out his re-election campaign just yesterday. The Venezuelan president even added that if he's re-elected for a third term, there will be peace and tranquility. However, last week Maduro warned of a bloodbath if he were to lose re-election.
I have done my best. I feel more and more energetic, healthier, younger, and more committed. I am prepared for a great victory. I know that our people will do it again. We will win again, and the floodgates will open for a blessed, miraculous time of peace, stability, and prosperity.
Often seen consuming green juices at campaign events, Maduro insists he is the right leader to guide the nation forward. As his campaign came to an end, Maduro took a swipe at Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Maduro hinted that President Lula should drink chamomile tea after the Brazilian leader expressed concern over the bloodbath rhetoric.
If the extremist right, the Bolsonarists, the followers of Milei and Hitler were to come to power in Venezuela, we would have a bloodbath. I didn't tell lies. I just did reflect. Whoever got scared should drink a chamomile tea, because the people of Venezuela are no longer scared. In Venezuela, peace will win. The popular power, the civic, military, political union will win.
Now Maduro's main challenger, Edmundo Gonzalez, who is a former diplomat, has garnered substantial support. In fact, polls indicate that Gonzalez is leading in opinion polls reflecting the deep-seated frustration among Venezuelans over years of economic deprivation under Maduro's rule. Gonzalez wrapped up his presidential campaign in Caracas in the company of opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, and they both urged voters to go to polling stations early and stay all day until the voting ended.
We need everyone to get mobilized very early in the morning. I ask you a question. Who is defending your vote? Everyone defends their vote. To vote early and stay in ballot stations all day.
Venezuela hopes that this new government will be a transition government. Let's leave behind so much struggle, confrontation, corruption, and all the disasters of the last 25 years of public administration. We need change. Change is coming, and voting is the instrument to achieve it.
Now, the United States and many other nations consider Maduro's 2018 win to be a sham. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby has said that any political repression or violence this year would be unacceptable.
A quick word on Venezuela. We support the peaceful elections that we expect and hope will come on Sunday. Elections that will reflect the will and the aspirations of the Venezuelan people for a more democratic, stable, and prosperous future. Any political repression and violence is unacceptable. And of course, regardless of who wins, we encourage both candidates to commit to a peaceful outcome and to work together for the good of all Venezuelans. With that,
And joining the United States, Chile's President Gabriel Boric urged the Venezuelan government and electoral authorities to ensure smooth polling this Sunday.
I agree and support Lula's statements that said no points of view can be supported by bloodshed. Instead, leaders and candidates are vote baths, and those vote baths represent the popular sovereignty, and it must be respected in all cases.
Now, even though Maduro's promise of stability contrasts starkly with his opponent's vision of change, it's still an open question as to who will shape Venezuela's destiny. And back in the United States, Mexican drug lord Ismael Zambada Garcia and the son of his former partner El Chapo have been arrested by the Justice Department in Texas. Both men are in the upper echelon of Mexico's deadly Sinaloa Cartel, which is one of the most violent and powerful drug trafficking organizations in the world. The Sinaloa Cartel has been blamed for flooding the United States with drugs like fentanyl. That is now the leading cause of death in Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. Here's our latest report with more about the notorious crime syndicate.
This is Ismael Zambada Garcia, a 76-year-old co-founder of Mexico's Sinaloa Cartel and one of the most powerful drug lords in the world. And this is Joaquin Guzman Lopez, a 36-year-old leader of the same trafficking network and the son of Mexico's notorious crime boss El Chapo. Both of them have been the most wanted criminals in the United States for years. Authorities had been offering rewards up to $20 million for their capture. And finally, they're in custody of the US Justice Department. American officials have revealed that the two top cartel leaders were arrested in El Paso, Texas on Thursday. They face multiple charges ranging from drug trafficking, money laundering, kidnapping, and organized crime. And for Garcia, who's well known as El Mayo, the charges stretch back more than 2 decades. The arrests are being seen as a victory for the FBI, Homeland Security, and the Drug Enforcement Administration, who have been chasing the high ranks of the Sinaloa cartel for decades. The US authorities believe that the Sinaloa cartel is one of the most violent and powerful drug trafficking organizations in the world. El Mayo co-founded the cartel with Joaquin Guzman Loera, infamously known as El Chapo in the 1980s. While El Chapo was the public face of the criminal syndicate and gained something of a global celebrity status at his peak, many believe that El Mayo was in fact the real leader. He created and maintained some of the earliest links with the Colombian cartels to flood US with drugs like cocaine and heroin, and became the biggest exporter of fentanyl to the United States. In February, El Mayo was charged by American prosecutors with a conspiracy to make and distribute fentanyl that has been blamed for the opioid crisis in the US. In recent years, fentanyl has emerged as the deadliest drug threat for the United States. The drug is now the leading cause of death in Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. After El Chapo's extradition to the US in 2017, his 4 sons, including Lopez, were elevated to a leadership role in the cartel. And El Mayo, who had kind of a surrogate paternal relationship with them, continued to maintain a low profile. Now, Joaquin Guzman Lopez is expected to appear in the Federal Court of Chicago in the coming days. Meanwhile, it is unclear where El Mayo, who has never spent time in jail, would be prosecuted. Their successful arrests are being seen as a major step in American efforts to pursue cartel leaders. However, this would probably not stop the Mexican cartel from trafficking drugs to the US, as El Mayo a decade back said, "Locked up, dead or extradited, the replacements are already out there."
And finally from Paris, where the world's best athletes have gathered for the 2024 Olympics, only to find themselves in an unexpected culinary conundrum. Protein powerhouse eggs are in short supply, and now the Olympic Village is in a frantic scramble to feed its 15,000 hungry competitors. Promises of increased supplies and creative menu solutions have been made, but will it be enough to satisfy appetites of these athletes? Our final report takes you inside frantic preparations for the Olympic Games.
As the 2024 Paris Olympics geared up for its grand opening, an unexpected hiccup left athletes in a bit of a scramble. That too, quite literally. The Olympic Village has been struck by a food shortage, leading to grumbling stomachs and grumpy athletes. According to a report, vital protein like eggs and grilled meats were rationed out at breakfast nearly 2 days before the opening day, leaving many athletes feeling like they were getting Oliver Twist-style portions to start their day. Eggs, a protein-rich staple in the diets of most athletes, were particularly scarce, much to the dismay of the hungry competitors. Sodexo Live, the official catering partner, and Carrefour Group, the supplier for fresh products, have both vowed to increase the supply to meet the high demand. The task of feeding 15,000 athletes is no small feat, not to mention the additional staff, officials and volunteers. The Olympic kitchen will remain open 24 hours a day and is expected to serve about 40,000 meals daily. Michelin-trained chefs have also crafted a menu featuring over 500 dishes, including 40 entrees, a salad bar, a grill, a cheese cart, a dessert bar, and a fruit stand. And to add to the challenge, Paris 2024 has even vowed to cut the carbon footprint of meals in half. So a third of all food will be plant-based, and all meat, eggs, and milk will be sourced from within the country. Hence, despite these creative dishes, the current supply chain struggles to match the appetite of the athletes.
So this is a vegetarian salad which is composed of quinoa and a mix of vegetables, accompanied by a tahini sauce and falafels, including the garden falafel which we serve with beetroot and the classic garden gourmet falafels.
I have adapted for the fruits they want. I changed my harvest with more or less mature berries, the size of the fruit, to adapt to what the partner has been asking for.
It is certainly possible to have the ambition to be both a partner of a global event and to be engaged with the green transition and the food transition. So with everything we have in place and that we will put in place, we can inspire others to be part of the beautiful heritage.
Meanwhile, it's not just the Olympic Village that's making all the arrangements. Restaurants located in nearby locations are also gearing up, bringing some unusual choices to the table. Snails, frog legs, and many such French delicacies are also added to local restaurant menus as they look forward to serve up some of their famous cuisine.
I do like it. Yeah. It is good. I try to be adventurous with my palate and my cuisine. I try to have an open mind when I'm trying other cultures, cuisines, and cultural foods as well. For the most part, I'm willing to try anything once, and if I like it, then great. If not, then I know and I won't try it again. But I just try to focus on the experience rather than thinking about the fact that it is frog legs.
So, as the opening ceremony approaches, all eyes and stomachs are on the Olympic Village's kitchen, hoping they can rise to the occasion. And as the athletes prepare to chase their dreams on the grandest stage, here's hoping that the only hurdles they face are on the track and not at the breakfast table.
And that's our show for today. We certainly thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you have an amazing weekend, and we look forward to seeing you right back here next week. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired!
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America.